Welcome to the Dermatology Studio with Dr. Yusra Ayaz.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to tackle a topic you might know by its common nickname, the strawberry mark. We're talking about cutaneous hemangiomas. Now, they're incredibly common in babies, but the way they're classified and how they behave over time, well, that's a whole other story, and it's actually pretty fascinating. So let's get right into it. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start big by classifying all the different vascular anomalies so we know exactly where hemangiomas fit in the family. Then, we'll zoom in and define what they really are. After that, we'll look at a couple of real-world cases, get into the nitty-gritty science of the most common type, and wrap up by mapping out their very predictable life cycle.
Okay, first things first. Before we can really understand what a hemangioma is, we kind of need to understand the landscape and see what it isn't. Think of this as our medical roadmap.
Now take a look at this. This table shows the one absolutely critical distinction you have to make. On the left, you've got vascular tumors. The key phrase there is endothelial proliferation. That's just a fancy way of saying the cells that line the blood vessels are actively multiplying and growing. And look what's at the top of the list, our hemangioma. But on the right, you have vascular malformations, like a port wine stain. These are totally different. Think of them more like a structural issue, like a plumbing problem that's been there from the start. The cells aren't growing. Nailing this difference is, without a doubt, the first and most important step. So, now that we've found it on our map, let's really zero in on the hemangioma itself. What exactly are we talking about here? At its core, a hemangioma is a benign tumor. And let's just pause on that word, benign. It means it is not cancerous. It's made up of those proliferating or rapidly multiplying blood vessels we just talked about. And the real telltale sign is when it appears, usually right at birth or within the first few weeks of a baby's life. And here you can see a perfect example of what one typically looks like. You can see why they get the strawberry nickname, right? It's that bright red color, it's raised up from the skin, and it often has a kind of rubbery feel to it. They can show up anywhere, but you'll most often find them on the face, scalp, chest, or back. So just how common are these? The answer is very. In fact, they are the most common benign tumors in infancy, showing up in as many as 10% of babies. And there's a really interesting gender split. Girls are 3 to 5 times more likely to have one than boys. Location-wise, more than half of them pop up in the head and neck area. But here's the really crucial clinical takeaway. Most are solitary. If you see an infant with multiple hemangiomas on their skin, that's a big red flag to investigate for internal ones, especially in the liver, which is the most common spot.
Okay, but not all hemangiomas are created equal. You have to know about the two main players, infantile and congenital. And the difference really boils down to timing. The infantile type, the much more common one, shows up after birth and then grows like crazy. The congenital type, on the other hand, is already fully baked at birth and doesn't grow anymore. On a molecular level, there's a key marker, a protein called GLUT1. Infantile hemangiomas are GLUT1 positive. Congenital ones are negative. Simple as that.
All right, theory's great, but let's see how this works in practice. I'm going to give you 2 quick case studies. See if you can figure out what's going on. Okay, here's our first case. We've got a 2-week-old baby girl. At birth, she had just a small, pale, flat spot on her cheek. But over the last 6 weeks, it's exploded into this bright red, firm, raised lesion, and it's still getting bigger.
So, putting on your thinking caps, what do you think we're looking at here?
If you guessed infantile hemangioma, you nailed it. The absolute giveaway is that rapid growth after birth. That's the classic postnatal proliferation we were just talking about. Okay, on to case 2. A brand new baby is being examined, and there's a fully formed purplish vascular mass right there on the thigh. And here's the key detail. In the days and weeks that follow, it doesn't get any bigger.
And this one, of course, is a congenital hemangioma. The clue is written all over it. It was fully formed at birth and showed 0 growth afterward. It's a textbook presentation.
Great job. So now that we know how to tell the 2 main types apart, let's go a little deeper into the science behind the one we see all the time, the infantile hemangioma, or IH for short. So are there any clues as to who might be more at risk for an IH? It turns out, yes. The data shows a higher likelihood in premature babies, those with a low birth weight, and, as we mentioned, in girls. Also on the list are babies who were in a breech position for birth, and it's seen more commonly in the white population. But why do they even form in the first place? Well, the truth is, nobody knows for certain. But the leading theory is pretty wild. Remember that GLUT1 protein? Turns out it's also found in the blood vessels of the placenta. So, the theory goes that a microscopic piece of the placenta could break off, travel into the baby's bloodstream, get lodged somewhere, and start to grow. It's a neat idea, but there is one little hiccup. So far, we haven't found any of the mother's DNA in these tumors, which you might expect to see.
So, what about genetics? Could you pass this down? For the huge majority of cases, the answer is no. But there is a very rare form that can be inherited in an autosomal dominant pattern, meaning you only need the gene from one parent. In those specific families, scientists have linked it to a spot on chromosome 5q and have even found mutations in genes that are known to be involved in growing blood vessels.
Now, if you were to look at a sample of one of these under a microscope, it tells a story. In that early, fast-growing phase, you'd see these dense packs of cells with hardly any open channels for blood. But as it matures and starts to shrink back, you see those channels, or lumina, start to open up, the cells flatten out, and fatty tissue begins to move in. And of course, the definitive test in the lab is that stain for GLUT1. If it lights up positive, you know for sure you're dealing with an infantile hemangioma.
And this brings us to what is arguably the most important part of this whole discussion, especially for any parents listening: the predictable, natural life cycle of an infantile hemangioma.
So the journey usually starts in the first week or two of life, when the mark first appears. What follows is a phase of really rapid growth, which you can imagine can be pretty alarming for new parents. But here's the key thing to know. It's totally normal for this to happen. In fact, by the time that baby is just 3 months old, the hemangioma has already reached about 80% of its maximum size.
After the fast growth comes the long, slow shrink. This is called involution. And there's a fantastic little rule of thumb to help remember the timeline: the 3-5-9-15 rule. By age 3, most of the major shrinking is done. By age 5, about 60% of it is gone. By age 9, you're looking at 90 to 95% gone. And by the time they're 15, it could be completely gone. It's a marathon, not a sprint, for sure.
So what's left behind after this long journey? Often, not much at all. But sometimes, there can be some leftover changes. Maybe some tiny spider veins, a little thinning of the skin, or a small patch of fatty tissue. If these changes are noticeable enough to consider treatment, surgeons will typically wait until after the child is 3 or 3.5, once nature has already done most of the heavy lifting.
And that really brings us to the final, most important point. Just knowing this timeline, that predictable pattern of rapid growth followed by a long, slow, steady retreat, is incredibly powerful. It completely changes the conversation between a doctor and worried parents. It shifts the focus away from fear and uncertainty and towards management, observation, and patience. So just think about that. How does simply knowing the roadmap change the entire journey? Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for watching. Hit like, share, and subscribe to the Dermatology Studio. Ask your skin queries in the comments below.